Welcome to Helping Organisations Thrive. Today I have the pleasure of Dana Diaz. Good morning and good afternoon to you, Dana.
Good morning. Well, good morning here. Good afternoon there.
Yeah, I love talking to people all around the world and the sort of different dynamics of that. Just to explain that you are a DePaul University graduate in journalism and psychology, a survivor and advocate for victims of narcissistic abuse, and you're drawing on your personal experience and academic knowledge. You help others recognize and heal from abusive situations. Your first book, emerging from your own journey through an abusive marriage, exemplifies your commitment to supporting fellow survivors. And there's no surprise that we'll be talking and exploring this, today, narcissism in leadership and in the workplace, how to spot it, how it manifests itself, and how we deal with it. And I suppose the first question I'd like to ask you, Dana, first is, what do you love about what you do?
That's an interesting question considering my past. What I love about what I do is the freedom to create, the freedom to be authentic, just the freedom, the liberation, because I think having grown up with two narcissistic parents and then spending 25 years in a narcissistic relationship and marriage, everything was dictated to me. I mean, down to what I should eat, what I should say, what I should wear. Every detail of my life was so regimented. So now that I am free of all that, you can imagine how much I love being an author and a podcaster and an advocate, that I can just be free to be me and free to do what I want to do and free to live my life on my own terms.
A wonderful sort of testimony of freedom there. Yeah,
Yes.
and you probably you probably appreciate it more than most people do based on your experience and your history there.
Yeah.
And we're starting with narcissism, and I suppose we're thinking about it in the context of the workplace and in terms of leadership. And I think it would be quite helpful for the listeners and who are listening right now, just to give some context to that, but also give like a definition of what that might be, just so people are clear from your perspective what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Because narcissism, and thank you for starting with that, because I think we all have a different concept of narcissism, and it is very complex. People spend decades studying this. On a very simple level, it's somebody that has to fulfill their ego and has to feel a sense of superiority, no matter what the cost. On the low end, these are people you'll see on social media that are looking for that validation. They're looking for praise. They're baiting people to look at me, look what I have, and they want all that attention. On the very far end of the other side of the spectrum is where we see domestic violence, even not even on the domestic side, but, even in the workplace, these are the people that we see return to a former workplace and do violent things. And, it's very sad, but for them, it's a feeling of control and power. And those are the two essential things that narcissism comes down to. Sadly, narcissism, realistically, where it started, it was a term that was taken from the Greek god Narcissus, who liked to look at his reflection in the water because he was so handsome, apparently, or he thought so at least. So it went from liking the way you look to now feeling this sense of superiority and entitlement over other people.
That's a helpful definition, Dana. I like that. And if we start to hone it in on from a workplace, and people sort of listening, thinking, okay, how do I suppose, spot what are the signs or the behaviors I might see in leaders or in other people that are more narcissistic than others?
A lot of times they're very arrogant. They definitely come off as they know that they're the best. They feel that they do the best work. They feel that the rules don't apply to them, that they're above everybody and beyond the expectations of everybody else. These are people that you might see take a longer lunch because they can, and they feel that they deserve it more than the other people there. These are people that will take credit for work they didn't do because they are the best indeed, and they want other people, especially if it's, somebody above them, to see that, well, they did this, and they thought of this. And they will steal your ideas. They will steal your work. They will take credit for things they had no part in. Sometimes they even befriend you. It's a sneaky thing where they will basically get information from you and then take that and again use your ideas, develop them into their own. So you do have to be careful. They always say narcissists are like snakes, so you have to be really careful because they will do anything and everything they can to make sure that they come out on top at the end of the day.
And do we all have elements of narcissism in us? I mean, we're talking a spectrum here, aren't we, of behaviors? And I guess
Absolutely.
there's elements of those that we all possibly have. Is that right?
100%, in personal and professional life, everybody has, certain traits that could be, one or many on the list of things that narcissists tend to do. But I look at it like this, and this is what I tell people. Number one, you want to look at the intention. If your intention, is not to harm other people, if it's, unintentional, let's say, then you're okay. You're just a human being. We all are. But when your intention is to cause harm or to, do something that opposes typical morals or rightful morals, then you're doing something wrong. And the other way to look at this too, and I tell people, if you go to your doctor and you have a sore throat and a stuffy nose, the doctor might say it could be this, it could be this, it could be a number of things. There's symptoms of many things. So just because you have certain traits that apply to narcissists does not mean you are a narcissist. You just have, human aspects that are a part of you for whatever reason. But I go back to the intention. If you have harmful intention or cruel intention, then you're probably going into the realm of narcissism.
I guess it's also looking at consistency of behavior, isn't it? Like any
Yes.
traits, if you see a consistency, that's sort of almost who they are. If they see it in out of work or in work, and that means if there's little pockets of it, then it's probably just human behavior, which is okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that everyday
That's a
consistent.
good
Always
point.
like that.
Exactly, because sometimes we react to things and, sometimes we do things that are uncharacteristic of ourselves and what have you. But you're absolutely right. When you see a pattern of behavior, definitely that's a sign that is that person's character.
Yeah, because I always look at people, and when they do something, for me, it's more than 3 times. There's something, whether that could be turning up late or missing deadlines, nothing to do with narcissism, but actually something is, you got to look for a trend, look for a pattern, and that's what you look for, isn't it, in terms of whether somebody's got narcissistic behaviors on a pattern basis.
Exactly. And another key with narcissism is that narcissists have no remorse, they have no empathy. They do not care about what they have done to you. They do not care about how they have affected you. When they steal your ideas at work, when they make you look badly in front of your manager or supervisor at work or in front of your coworkers, if they make a fool of you, they don't care. They're doing it on purpose and they want you to look that way. Whereas somebody, we might mistakenly, again, in personal or professional life, mistakenly say or do something that makes somebody feel, we would feel badly and we would apologize. Narcissists sometimes apologize, but they don't mean the apology, because if they continue, again, that pattern of behavior, then that negates the apology. The apology was just to appease you so they can continue doing what they're doing without your interference. But you have to be careful, like I said, when they have no remorse and no empathy, when they feel justified in doing what they're doing, this is definitely a narcissist.
And does a narcissist realize they're a narcissist, do you think?
A narcissist will never say that they're a narcissist. And that's interesting because sometimes on social media, I see these self-proclaimed narcissists explaining themselves, and it's all baloney. They're not. There is no narcissist that would admit that they have any flaw or weakness or any slight issue that might present them as less than less than anything. So, they are the best, they are number one, they know everything, they're better than everybody. They will never admit a deficiency, not even the slightest.
And in your opinion, why are people narcissistic? Where does it come from? What's happening within? I mean, and it's probably a $60 million question on this one.
No,
I just
you
want
know
to get from
what?
your experience and what you've read and everything else.
Absolutely. There are a variety of ideas about that. I mean, I've heard things as far-fetched as they're aliens that are, they have downloaded, information in their brain and they're here to take over I don't know anything about that. What most people believe is it starts in childhood. And it's very interesting because you have a child in a situation where they feel, now I'm using this word, they perceive that they were neglected or abused or even slighted in some way. This might be that they felt their sibling was favored. Maybe their sibling was a golden child. Maybe they were actually abused. Maybe they feel like they were neglected. Whether they were or not is not, relevant here. It's how they perceived their childhood. So if they felt less than in any way in their childhood, they sometimes go on to become narcissists to fulfill that egotistical need. It's kind of sad, actually, if you think about it, that they feel, so sad and insecure inside that they seek to then in their adult life overpower and control others. And sometimes we see this even, and I have seen it in children, actually, school bullies and kids at school that are mean to other kids because then they feel better about themselves. But then you have on the other hand of this, there are children that in their childhood, they are made to feel so much more important than other kids. They're so much more special that they go on in their life and actually do think that they are better than others. And, it's a very hard thing. And we can get into a whole parenting, conversation about this, but we all want our children to develop with good self-esteem and we want to encourage, but some parents, and maybe it just depends on the child's, sensitivity to it, but some parents inflate their child's ego so much that, the child never recovers to a normal sense of self where they really do have this inflated ego that they expect everybody to serve in their adulthood.
So almost stemming from an insecurity, I guess, all this, isn't it? It seems to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And just as we're trying to look at the positives of this, are there any positive traits associated with a narcissistic leader, or are they all sort of detrimental?
You know what? I will say this. Maybe because I like to look at the bright side of things and I try to find the positive in every situation. I think a narcissistic leader, the way that they would carry, if they're leading a team, they would expect the best from everybody. They would expect everybody to live up to the expectation they hold themselves to, which is, to perform at their best and to achieve that number one spot and be number one in sales or number one, whatever that top level is within the organization. They would expect that and they would speak to that, and I like this much more so than having a team manager or a project manager that says, oh, well, we'll try, we'll do our best. Whereas a narcissist is going to say, no, we are the best. They're going to speak that importance to you. They're going to speak that out to you and give that energy to the team. So in that sense, I actually like that idea. What you have to be careful of is, like I said, that if you don't perform where they expect you to perform, they're stealing your ideas and they're not going to treat you very well if you don't live up to their expectation. And they do like praise and adoration. And that's one of the things you have to be careful of, especially if this is your boss. You have to make sure to feed their ego. If you feed their ego, they will take you along on the ride up the corporate ladder. They will take you with them. But if you do not feed their ego, if they ever sense that you catch on to them and that they're a narcissist and that you're not really supportive of that, they will take you down. They will take you down. You will not work at that place much longer if they have anything to say about it.
Oh, scary, really, isn't it? Very
Yeah.
scary. And they obviously they tend to be high performers based on that because they want to do
Oh,
really
very.
well and very
Yeah, they
driven in that sense.
exactly. I mean, they can't. Again, I've seen this in children that these are as adults, they're the same way they are as kids. That while they were, they can't have a B in class. They have to get all A's. They have to be on honor roll. They have to be the best. So they are high performers. And like I said, I think that could be a positive thing. Not all narcissists are bad. So it can be a good thing to lead a team, especially if they're in charge, because they are expecting everybody else to perform to that level. Are they going to help you necessarily? Some might because it reflects on them, but some will not. Some may just say, you know what, you're not performing, you're done, you're out. I'm going to find somebody else who will perform to this level.
So we've identified what a narcissistic leader is and hopefully help the people listening right in terms of the behaviors to look out for and the interactions that you may have. What can we do? Can we do anything about this? By the sounds of it, if you go against them, they'll just take you out and
Oh,
somehow
yes.
get up. So how do we work with a narcissistic leader without being completely controlled by them? Or
I
is
think
that even possible?
it is possible. It depends on the person. I'm not saying sell your soul to the devil. They like if you appease them. If you really can't bring yourself to do that, and I understand, there are some people that I have even encountered that I'm like, I am not feeding into this. I refuse to feed into this. I think the best thing to do is just do your best performing your role, your position, your job, fulfill your responsibilities, and just make sure you meet the expectations that are, that they want you to achieve. But a big thing is, and this is something I learned again in personal and professional life, keep your ideas to yourself. Keep your big ideas, your brainstorming, anything you're working on, keep it very private. Keep your desk locked. Keep your computer, make sure you have passwords on everything, because these are people, whether it's your boss or your coworker, they are going to go through your things. They'll go through your files. They'll go through your computer because they are looking for whatever they can get their hands on to increase their level, or their reputation or whatever it is. So I would just say keep your things to yourself unless you have to share them openly in a meeting of some sort or in a presentation. Just keep to yourself. Don't talk about it with your coworkers, at least not unless you absolutely trust them. But just make sure to keep tabs on everything and be aware. Keep your eyes and ears open. You just have to basically work in the form of protection. Safeguard yourself, safeguard what you're doing, safeguard what you're working on, so that nobody else can take that credit and basically take your thunder away.
And you talk about safeguarding ourselves there. How do we safeguard ourselves, particularly when if it's a leader, for example, who might want to control and do things that goes against either your own sort of values or crosses your boundaries? What can we do that can, I suppose, protect us from that?
Unfortunately, if it is somebody who's in a leadership position, you're either going to have to go with it or not. I'm a firm believer in asserting, my boundaries, because I lacked that ability in the first 4 decades of my life. So it's just a matter of not creating conflict, but just saying, I don't feel comfortable with this. But I would say offer a solution. I don't agree with, proceeding in this manner, but this is what I propose to do. Is that okay with you? Because you have to remember, you want to defer back to them because they always want to be in control. They always want things to be in their decision, so to speak. So I would just find an alternate solution, figure that out, and present it exactly like that. I'm not sure that this is the best way to go about it. This is what I propose. What do you think? What do you think of this? Put it back on them so that in their mind, they can feel like they were the ones who decided that this could be. And hopefully it's something that, you can come to some compromise that appeases everybody in the situation. But it's a matter of taking control yourself, figuring things out yourself and what you feel most comfortable with. There are unfortunately going to be people, and I have been in that situation a time or two before, where it was just compromising my values to an extent that I did not want to be part of this person's team. I didn't want to be part of what they were doing. And unfortunately, that means bowing out and finding a place that my services would be, better used. So, sometimes we do have to make that decision, because at the end of the day, I've seen this not just in my own experiences, but in others. That narcissist, even if they are not qualified in any way, you will see them rise within the levels of the company, because they know they're masters of mimicking. They know what to say, they know what to do to get what they want, and they will do it at all costs.
And I guess it depends on on the spectrum of how narcissists they are and how that impacts us as well. And you said about that asserting our boundaries, but also playing to that place where you almost keep them, they feel they're in control still, by obviously referring to them as, what do you think, which almost keeps them on side, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they have to feel like they are in charge. Even if they're not in charge, they have to feel like they're in charge and that they're the best. And they love admiration, praise, and respect. And by putting it back on them, saying, here's what I propose. What do you think? Here's what I propose. Do you think we can proceed this way instead? That puts the ball back in their court and gives them that power position of being able to say yes or no. And sometimes they're going to say no. And that's where I say that, you're going to have to decide, because realistically, I know it's not always easy to find a different position or a different company to work for. But sometimes it's just not the right fit. And a narcissist is not going to, oftentimes, like I said, they will charm people. They know how to keep their place. They know how to rise in organizations. They know what the higher ups want and how to get there. And even if they have no qualifications, I mean, it's amazing to see what people that have no knowledge even of what they should have, that rise to these levels and get these titles and these positions, even though it's the people, I hate to say under, but it is the people underneath them that really did the work to get them to where they were.
And if you're a leader, and you're not a narcissist leader, but you're dealing with somebody in your team who is, how should you deal with them? What's the best way of dealing with them besides getting rid of them?
That's the thing. I mean, I personally would just nix them. I've been a manager. I've been in those positions, and they're not team players. They're not team players. If you're friends or married to them, they're not team players at the workplace. They are out for themselves. And so if you have any team situation in the workplace, which usually an organization is basically a whole team, narcissists don't play with others. They don't want any part. It's all about them. So I personally just say, you're out. If you can't do this, you're out. Because all it's going to do, they are going to poison other people. They tend to rally others to their side. They create division. They will create mutiny in organizations. I have seen this happen. So it's best to get rid of them. Now, again, it depends if they're that bad. If they're on the low end of this narcissistic spectrum, that they just need a lot of that attention and admiration. It's kind of like if you had a classroom of kids, you just have to give them a pat on the back and an attaboy or attagirl every once in a while, and just say, really good job in that presentation, and that'll fulfill their ego enough that they'll play nicely with everybody. But if it gets to the point of mutiny, they just need to go, because it's kind of like, what do they say about one person is just going to spoil others, and then now you have a few of them together over here and the rest of the team's over there, and you cannot be a team if you're divided.
Mm-hmm. And if you're in an organization, and there's obviously a number of teams in this organization, and you've got colleagues who are under a narcissistic leader, how best or is there a way of supporting them and helping them in that situation, although you're not directly affected by it? But how can you support those?
I think it's just a matter of, being available to them, listening, but not necessarily acting. And I know that sounds strange, but a lot of people in these positions that have to deal with narcissists just want to be heard. They just want somebody to say, "You're right. I've seen it. I get it." And I have been in that situation, even recently in my life with a coworker that just steals and takes credit and all this, even takes clients. I've had clients stolen, and it's very upsetting, but I just make sure management is aware of it, that the superiors are aware of it. I am heard, it's duly noted, it's in the file. I think that's the best thing, because then at least as that worker, as that team member, they feel that management is aware and that they're heard. And so they will continue on knowing that it's safe to go to these people, and that, there's not going to be any repercussions for them. Because I think narcissists, at least the worser ones that we deal with, tend to put a fear in other people that, don't expose me, don't tell anyone what I did, I will deny it. They will make you look badly if you make them look badly. So you have to be careful of that.
That's really helpful, Dana. And I think just people who are listening to this will be spotting people in their organization that have elements of this, and perhaps they're already
Yes.
aware of it. And hopefully they've got some strategies, or at least an awareness is a huge thing.
Yes.
Of how to deal with it going forward. Is there any other things that you think would be helpful for people to know in how to deal with the narcissist, or whether it's in their team or a leader within an organization?
Yeah, I think the best thing is just don't confront them. I think sometimes our pride gets in the way, and we want to confront them and tell them what we think of them. And, you can't do this to me, and I'm going to tell you what kind of a person I think you are. That I don't think, even whether it's a narcissist or not, that's not going to be productive at all on any level. So I think it's just a matter of, you're either going to have to figure out a way to work with them, or just not work with them at all. Whether that means, you finding another position, or, just, avoiding any interaction with them. But you just have to be aware that they're out there, and in the workplace, there's so many of them. I mean, they're everywhere in this world, and we all have to deal with them. I am not saying appease them and bow down to them, but you have to assert your boundaries, but do not engage in conflict, because once you have conflict with them, they will kind of target you. You will be the person that they are going to try to take down as well, because their ego can't take that offense.
Yeah, no, I've had experience that myself, where I like to deal with things. I'm very much happy to confront people, very happy to do that. And and I've confronted narcissists, and it's not gone down too well.
No.
It doesn't go well. And
No.
I was okay with it, but it didn't go down very well.
No.
They don't like it. I don't like to do that appeasing. I find that really hard personally.
I have a hard time as well, but the conflict doesn't get anywhere either. So I try to find that middle ground where, I keep to myself, I stay away, and you stay over there, I'm going to stay over here, and I will smile when I have to, and go to a meeting with you, but that's about it.
Yes. No, I've learned that probably the hard way, but yes, I still find it hard.
It is.
I'd just be curious to know, is it more male, female, or it's a 50-50? I don't know.
Everybody is at risk of being a narcissist. In the workplace, I don't know the statistics, but in romantic relationships, where I've had more of my experience, more males are narcissists than females, but it's a very close percentage, based on the percentages that are out there. So it can go either way. It can definitely go either way.
Yes, because I think some people assume it's just males. It's actually both, isn't it?
Oh, very much so. And women are different types of narcissists. They are sneaky and nasty. And I mean, I'm sad to say, as a woman, they're probably worse than men.
Okay. Brilliant. Well, it's been really helpful and insightful, Dana, in terms of explaining what narcissism is, but also some of the behaviours. I think that'd be really helpful for people. It's not a very positive topic in that, but I think it's good to be aware. Well, no, just to be aware that this is reality of the world, and we all need strategies and how we can help overcome and deal with these things, which is what you've done. And I appreciate that. If people want to know more, get in touch with you or connect with you, what's the best way of doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. My website, danasdiaz.com. Links to Facebook and Instagram are there. And yeah, I'm happy to hear from anybody. You can reach out to me by email. The link is also on the website, danasdiaz.com.
Well, thank you for your time today, Dana.
Thank you so much.